So lift up your hands and thank God for his marvelous kindness and for all his miracles of mercy for those he loves. That's Psalm 107, verses 8, 15, 21, and 31. Chapter 1, Meeting and Dating. Chapter 2, Marrying and Having a Baby. Chapter 3, Leaving the Army, Moving Back to Texas, and Raising Our Kiddo. Chapter 4, Empty Nest. Chapter 4-ish, what we affectionately call our current season of life. But for now, let's back up to Chapter 4. I can see now how that time in our life was a setup for a season of gratitude. And I'd like to say it was a wonderful time filled with happy moments. Honestly, it was one of the most challenging ever. I think that's how it works though, don't you? Sometimes it takes experiencing hard things to truly recognize and appreciate the goodness and the kindness of God. Chapter 4, July 2013. Dakota, our only child, was 18 and he left to join the Army. I took it a lot harder than I'd expected, but Brennan and I had homeschooled him for much of his education and we had a close relationship. Though he was growing up and had friends that he spent time with, he also actually really enjoys hanging out with us, usually playing dominoes or Monopoly and laughing a lot, so I was really going to miss him. March 2014. Brandon, my husband, a paramedic, had a seizure while he was at work, and he'd had no history of seizures, so his partner took him to the hospital. 7 days in the hospital, an inoperable brain tumor. The treatment, biopsy, 6 months of radiation, and a year of chemo. Though he's much better now, the biopsies left him with some cognitive impairment that rendered him unable to return to work. Did I mention we'd put our house on the market just a few months before he had the seizure? Yeah, and a storm had damaged the roof, so I was making frequent trips onto our pitched roof to add new tarps until it finally looked like a patchwork quilt. Fun. We soon decided to take it off the market and delay a move we dreamed of for several years. Somehow the thought of showing the house while he battled chemo didn't seem like much fun. Yeah, I'm being a little sarcastic, but it wasn't all bad, truly. It was a lot. November 2018. I was offered a full-time position working as the director of tourism for the neighboring town we'd longed to move to. Taking the job would mean stepping away from a ministry I'd served for 7 years, and it would mean laying down fig tree. It wasn't an easy decision, but after much prayer, we both felt like it was our next right step. We spent the next 2 years preparing our house to sell so we could finally move to Mineral Wells. The house was under contract in less than 24 hours and for considerably more than we'd expected. This was right before the big real estate boom. September 2020. As we hauled off the last load from the house the evening before we closed, Brandon's mom passed away, and we later found out that my dad passed away the night before that. Those 7 roller coaster years left us weary, but also very excited for our new life in Mineral Wells. It seemed, however, that that new life wasn't as anxious to meet us. We looked for a new home for 9 long months. The home we found was everything we wanted, but not at all what we'd expected. We purchased an RV to become park hosts at our state park. Earlier in the year, I turned 44, and while I know that that isn't a milestone year, it was certainly a pivotal one for me. It was the year that God taught me to live from a place of gratitude. In the midst of it all, I was still very aware of His presence, and as has been true of our relationship for many years, He was very creative in how He spoke to me. Life with Him is like a never-ending treasure hunt, and I love it that way. Earlier in the year, even before I turned 44, I kept seeing the number 4. I finally decided to research the biblical meaning of the number, and what I found captivated me. Did you know that in all of the Bible, there is only one verse that is repeated word for word 4 times? Psalm 107, verses 8, 15, 21, and 31 all say the exact same thing. So lift up your hands and thank God for his marvelous kindness and for all his miracles of mercy for those he loves. As soon as I read the verse, I knew God was inviting me to pursue a life of gratitude. Now, when I see 4:44 on the clock, I raise my heart and my hands if it's appropriate, and I thank him for whatever comes to mind. And now, gratitude is my natural starting point. Not 100% of the time, but most of the time. These days, it's not unusual for me to tear up at random moments. Those tears carry my overwhelming thankfulness for the God who loves me and is so kind to me. You've likely heard that gratitude changes everything. And while it may not change the circumstances around you, it most certainly changes how you perceive and respond to them. This month, we're centering our Scripture Cultivations on gratitude expressed. I recently heard a study that showed that when you express your gratitude in some way, it doubles the joy you receive from the thing for which you were already feeling thankful. So in addition to our Scripture Cultivations list, I've actually put together a couple additional opportunities to help us practice expressing our gratitude. Now, it's completely up to you whether you use them or not, and if you don't have time, that's completely okay. You might print them out and then save them for later, but they're just simply additional ways for you to engage with God through his word in an active way. It's putting the scripture into practice. So you'll find that in addition to the Scripture Cultivations list, there will be a 5-day Gratitunities week where it's 5 days of actively looking for people that you can thank, and then a gratitude list, which is 30 days of writing down at least one thing that you are thankful for. They're super easy, but again, it's completely up to you whether you use them. If you want to receive those Scripture Cultivations and the extra cultivation opportunities in your inbox, make sure that you're on the FIGS list. I'll include a link for that down below. You can make the cultivations even more fun by inviting a friend or even making a few new friends by coming on over to the FIGS Community Facebook group, where this is what we do all the time. I'll drop that link down below too. And finally, make sure to hit subscribe and click the little bell thingy so that you get the notifications anytime a new video drops. All right, Figs, let's go express some gratitude this month.